This video will incorporate spoilers from the off. Why the Idol episode 3 is the worst one so far, so recollect, you have been warned. Here we're again, another episode of the Idol, and that same experience of sadness and feeling that I get on every occasion it is lower back. I sense like this display has almost was a parody of itself, following on from an episode that seemed as though it had some capability in there after looking Lily Rose Depp's man or woman Joss ruined down, maybe the lack of her mother. This episode tried to lean in on it inside the same way as what the previous one did, but it failed miserably, that paired with sings that were simply too much. I'd smash down and explain this episode and why it in the end became the worst of the season to this point. So let's get into it. Here is why the Idol episode 3 is the worst one yet. The loss of an actual story. I assume something which has turned out to be apparent after looking this most recent episode is the truth that we already recognize the story and the way it's maximum in all likelihood going to play out, and there is now not that much substance to it. Hence why we tend to have masses of different scenes that are full of Tyros and Joss being intimate with each other in extremely beside the point locations, which just does not without a doubt make sense to me. The simplest ambiguous factor that became ignored there inside the display become what went on with Joss's mother, and we had that found out to us on this installment. We located out that Joss became abused by her mom as a manner of her trying to instill attention and dedication into her. However, it became something that now with her mother no longer around, Joss felt as although she didn't have that cognizance that allows you to create appropriate tune. This changed into in which I concept we were going to have an exciting arm to the story and move down a path that would have made us see things barely differently. The concept that Josh became struggling on the arms of her mom and that the human beings closest to her within the industry knew what she changed into going through. However, did not anything approximately it due to the fact they wanted to gather a paycheck and maintain on the books. It could have certainly allowed us to look a dark facet to the industry and how humans almost considered Josh as a topic in place of a person. The reality that human beings are in it for the cash and could to be there for you, however if it receives within the way of them gathering their coins, then they may not step in. But no, instead we had Tyros basically announcing, do you continue to have the hairbrush that your mom used to hit you with? And now we're given Tyros mimicking her mom, placing her via pain on the way to try to get the first class music out of her. It just makes no experience and nearly makes a mockery of it. It's honestly pretty laughable when you consider it. It's so ridiculous. There had been some actual moments on this episode that did make me cringe as nicely. The ridiculous moment wherein Isaac turned into sitting there making a song with next to not anything on. And there has been additionally the communique approximately how all of them just say yes to the whole thing. Joss changed into weirded out with the aid of it, and I myself, because the viewer became too. It just did not sincerely make any experience, particularly considering that they then went on to mention no to something after, so it made the verbal exchange really redundant. The secretive nature of Tyros is something that it feels as even though the display is attempting to make extraordinarily interesting and crucial, but it's something that I experience we don't actually care approximately as he is already a sketchy person, so there was in no way any doubt that he becomes something else. Maybe if Tyros was a genuine person, but there has been this experience of bewilderment approximately his beyond, it'd upload intrigue. But I just don't get that with Tyros. I also don't certainly purchase into the idea that Joss believes that Tyros is a musical genius. It became supported in something that she said proper at the stop where she defined that she'd been running in the industry for 10 years and that he was new to it. So I sense maximum people accessible wouldn't take recommendation from somebody who has in no way worked within the enterprise or wrote a tune of their life. So it's a piece of ordinary aspect that continues happening. Tyros. Oh man, Tyros. The Weeknd's acting capacity changed into something that, once again become positioned into question this week, and I might say that this may arguably be one of the weakest performances. He had so much more display time compared to usual, and that become what in the long run allowed him to be uncovered a little more. The scenes in which they had been within the garb shop were something that just did not pass in his prefer. In this example, if you had an amazing actor, you could purchase the obsessive nature of the individual and the mystery that surrounded him, but I just sense as though it didn't paintings with him. The Weeknd essentially has facial expressions that he is capable of deliver Tyros, and it's simply not sufficient when you are seeking to deliver off the impact which you're this critical character who has a darkish past. This is very hidden. I experience like this is why he is in sunshades of variety of the time as the eyes are so critical in acting. So it feels like they just decided to cover them up. Tyros being impolite to the store clerk and additionally Joss's instructor becomes something that I just failed to truly buy both. I'm also pressured as to why nobody says something to him or stands up for themselves. They just make out like Taros is this invincible, untouchable being, but he is scrounging off of Joss. The photo nature. It took about all of 40 seconds of the episode earlier than we had to observe Taros and Joss throughout every other within the back of the car, within the becoming room, in the store, and also within the house. It's like we get it. We realize that they're collectively in that manner. We do not ought to see it continuously. I simply feel it cheapens the show barely and prefer, I've said before, it could be used on activities to help what it wants to reveal us. However, while surely one area of the episode is probably scenes of humans simply being with each different like that, you start to query what it's miles that you're watching. The pacing. Okay, so there's supposed to be approximately 6 episodes of The Idol, which means that we're now halfway via the season. It feels like the tale has slightly gotten commenced. Within this episode, we noticed Pedro's having extra of a hold over Joss compared to how we saw it inside the preceding 2 episodes. The dynamic appears to have shifted from simply being with each different intimately to him now being in control of the track that she was growing and him being delivered to her team. This is something that inside my thoughts just feels a little off and unrealistic. However, the unrealistic nature of it is not the largest problem. My trouble is, while did this occur within the display, we do not sincerely recognize how a whole lot time has surpassed with the aid of, and I assume that's what can make the show feel a little jarring to observe. Because inside the space of one episode, Taro's become now essentially on top of things of the whole thing and sitting at the head of the table. So it is just a little bit too uneven and all around the place. So was there something correct about it? Well, type of Liddy Rose Depp proved again that she's too right for this display. Her degree of performing is a long way above all people else it is in the cast, and it is so clean to see. Her and Rachel Sennett are truly pretty desirable. And I experience it while they are on screen collectively due to the fact that communicate that they percentage feels actual and I buy into it. Plus, their performances are sturdy. It just seems like this display on a countless range of activities starts happening one course and leans in on a tale that would be developed nicely, together with Josh struggling inside the industry due to her mom death or even simply struggling at the fingers of her mom, but everybody around her selecting to disregard it, and then they just decide to comb past it and now not focus on it with the extent of recognition, care, and amounts of detail which could permit this show to without a doubt be considered pretty top. The concept of Taro's a person who appears to be trying to capitalize off of someone else's decline in intellectual electricity is likewise an thrilling concept. But the execution of it just doesn't do it for me. It's too over the pinnacle ingrained with intimacy and has scenes that simply sense too unrealistic. After episode 2, I had a chunk of desire for the show, specifically after seeing what Lily Rose's intensity delivered in phrases of her overall performance. But Lily Rose's depth's overall performance won't be sufficient to keep the display shifting forward. There's simplest a lot you could do while the writing and the route just would not without a doubt imply something. So I bet we'll see how lots worse it is able to get or if it'll enhance as time goes on. There's 3 episodes left, so there you've got it. Why The Idol episode 3 is the worst one yet. If you need to look more movies which include endings, explain theories and predictions and man or woman breakdowns, then click on the I button, or as a substitute, you can head over to my channel wherein you may discover them all. If you'd like to offer me a show or film that you'd like me to study, then head over to my Twitter at brainpilot_ and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review subsequent. And ultimately, if you'd like to see what I rate the today's films that don't pretty make the reduce to getting a committed video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's wherein I rate the ultra-modern releases in real time. What did you observe of this episode? Leave a remark down below, and do not forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.